And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, Darren back with you here at Cross Timbers Farm. Welcome to 8th Day Chronicles. Today we are maintaining equipment. Fixing to start changing the engine oil in our ATV, and it is almost New Year's, so Happy New Year's to everybody. Happy 2023. I think tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and then the day after will be New Year's Day. So we are in the middle of winter, and all the hay fields are dormant and surviving the winter. We've been spreading fertilizer occasionally from the chicken coops and from the barn stalls on the hay pastures occasionally, but maybe doing soil samples, but that's really about all you can do this time of year as far as hay goes. But you know, around a small family farm, we have one machine that we use more than anything. And if you're a new farmer, or you're considering starting to farm on a small scale or a large scale, but this channel is geared towards small scale family farming. So if you're considering purchasing some land and starting to fence it, or bring livestock onto your property, or garden, whatever, vegetable crops, whatever the case may be, probably if I was starting over, the very first thing that I would do after acquiring my property to farm would be to purchase an ATV or a side-by-side, a UTV, you know, whatever the case may be. Our Honda ATV has been the workhorse of our farm for years and will continue to be. This machine has earned its keep here 100 times over, and we use this ATV weekly, oftentimes, sometimes daily, depending on what's going on, but it is definitely started and run at least once, twice a week, and sometimes 5 and 6 times a week per day. Well, not per day, but it's used 5 or 6 days per week at times. Ours is a 2006 Honda Foreman ES. The ES is electronic shift. It's 4-wheel drive, and it's selective 4-wheel drive. You can put it in 2 or 4. This machine has been invaluable. We haul feed with it. We haul hay on the wagon with it. We pull goat sheds with it. We hook a trailer to it and do fencing projects with it. It's just invaluable. We spray with it. We bush hog with it. It's just an invaluable machine to us here on our farm. So if I was starting over, completely over, and the first thing that I would do after acquiring my property would probably be, the next money spent would be on a good ATV or UTV. So we chose to go the ATV route, and sometimes I have regrets maybe about not going with a UTV with a little dump bed on the back of it, but in any event, this is the way we went. Several years ago, we've had this machine. I'm not real sure how long. It's been a lot of years. Like I said, it's a 2006, and I want to say we've had it probably 10 years, 8 years, something like that. And when we purchased it, it was in really good shape. Only had like 80 hours on it, I believe, when we bought it, and had been serviced real well. The gentleman had put some aftermarket wheels and things of that nature on, which personally I would have probably never done, but they were on it. Really had brand new tires on it, and those are still the tires that were on it when we purchased it, and they almost still look brand new. When you don't ride your ATV on real rocky terrain or on pavement, your tires will last a long time. And we do a lot of bush hogging with our pull behind brush hog or mower. We do a lot of hauling feed, but all of our traffic is used out on the farm, on the pasture, on dirt, on turf. None of it hardly is used on asphalt or pavement or gravel, so our tires has lasted a really long time. It's a good machine. And one thing that I would do if you do have an ATV around a farm that has almost proven as invaluable as the ATV itself is we went to Tractor Supply and bought a small trailer, a utility trailer. I think it's like a 4x6. It's small. We bought it small to pair with the ATV, and we put a plywood floor in it because it was just mesh and plywood sides to keep stuff from falling out. And we use that trailer almost weekly as well. When you're doing fencing projects, you're hauling hay, you're hauling feed, things of that nature, that trailer is invaluable to be behind this ATV. We did put a ball hitch on the back of our ATV, which the ball will come off and then we can pull behind sprayer, whatever we need with it. But a hookup on the rear for a trailer is essential. So when you buy a UTV or an ATV, go ahead and if you buy a brand new one, get the dealership to go ahead and hook you up a way to pull a trailer. And this one also has a 5,000 pound winch on the front, which is we don't use it very much, but there's been times that we needed it and it worked real well. We pulled out some logs and stuff with it, so it's worked good. So anyway, the key to any equipment on your farm is maintenance, keeping things maintained. And today, it's midwinter, and there is no better time than right now, midwinter, to start maintaining your farm equipment. If you cut hay, any of that type stuff, dead of winter is the time to start maintaining and getting this stuff in tip-top shape. Don't wait till spring and it's time to start spraying your pastures with herbicides or something of that, or spreading fertilizer, whatever the case may be, and then realize, I need to change the oil in my ATV. I haven't done that this year. And the next thing you know, you're scrambling to get all this done. Do it now while it's considered downtime. It's midwinter and we have a pretty warm day today. It's in the upper 40s to low 50s. The sun's out, so we've brought the ATV down. We got some ramps here and a jack, and we're going to get this thing jacked up, get the oil drained, and get the filter off, a new filter on, and refilled with oil. So this machine will be ready to undergo some hours of use this spring. First thing that this ATV will do this spring will be to pull our tow behind herbicide sprayer to spray for weeds in the pasture. And you know, a lot of folks are against some folks, I shouldn't say a lot, but some folks are kind of against an herbicide spray on the hay pastures. But you know, there's only so much you can do with weeds naturally, and sometimes you have to resort to herbicides. And I really believe that if you spray herbicides at the right time of year, at the right stage of growth of your hay, and use the right type herbicides, it can be very safe. And you know, it's either let your fields go and let the weeds take over, which they will if you don't do something, and have very low quality hay, or use some herbicides in the right manner to make quality hay. So that'll be our first project that the ATV is used for. In a main job, we use it daily, just hauling feed and stuff, but for prolonged hours of running, it'll be pulling a sprayer around the hay field in a couple of months. So we're slowly getting everything maintenance. Do it this time of year and you're not in a rush. It's a big thing for me. Of course, this time of year I like to crappie fish also, so I have to balance those days. So in any event, come with us as we get this machine maintained. Okay, our oil filter is right up here. So let's get this cover off. Most of these covers just snap off, but this one actually has a bolt. This one cover here over it, so we need to find the appropriate socket. Okay, we're around to the other side. Brought us up an old scrap piece of plywood to put on the ground here to keep our knees from getting muddy and wet on this damp ground. We've went from, let's see, today, we went from 4 days ago of being -2 degrees to today being almost 50. And it's really made the ground soft and muddy. The freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing is sometimes a farmer's worst nightmare. Okay, we got this cover off. Okay, there is our oil fill. Okay, folks, to break these bolts loose on our oil filter, it has 3 8mm hex head bolts. We're gently going to just break them loose. My little 1/4 inch ratchet is worn out. Okay, we've got them all broke loose. Okay, there's bolt number 1. And this cover kind of just pops off. Once you get the bolts out of it, it won't just fall off. There's 2. As you can see, I'm going to have all 3 bolts out of it, and it's still not fell off. I'm just going to gently, because it has an O-ring, okay, the oil's coming out. Okay, there's our cover. Here is our used filter. And I let it fall right down in the oil. Okay, it's already down to about a drip. Okay, there is a spring in there, and then be very mindful of that spring. Okay, I'm just going to hold this for a few minutes and let it drip until it reaches the point that I can let it go and get a shop towel to, well, I've got one right here, an old rag that I can sop up a little bit of this oil with. Right there. Get this out. Okay. All right. Looking good. Folks, when you're dealing with, it don't matter if it's your tractor, if it's your ATV, if it's your farm truck, or your wife's SUV, anytime you are dealing with oil filters, anything of that nature that has to do with the engine oil. All right, I'm gonna stuff that in there and just let that soak that oil up. Okay, let me quickly grab another shop towel. Anytime you're dealing with oil and oil filters and the lubrication that's going to keep your engine running smoothly, cleanliness is next to godliness. Make sure that you're keeping your work area right around where you're going to be mounting this plate back, and sealing the area where your oil filter, and this is just like a cartridge oil filter. I'll show you the new one. Well, I can go ahead and show you what it looks like. Here's the used one. Okay, you can see it's just a really small little oil filter. Okay, very small. This one's dirty. The oil is not that bad. I've seen oil much dirtier than this in the past in other machinery. So this one's not that bad, but it did need changed. But anyway, keep these areas around where you're going to be putting a seal back in and where oil's going to be in there, etc., clean. Do not let any grit get in your sealing area. If you notice any, take a towel and wipe it nice and clean. Okay, let's get our new filter. Okay, this machine, 2006 Honda Foreman 500 ES. This is the filter. It's a Napa filter that I use. It is a 4944 Napa Gold filter. Kind of pricey. December of 2022, the other day, this filter costed 14 bucks. 14 bucks for an oil filter that little is ridiculous high, but what do you do? And it does have a new O-ring that we need to install. It's the life of your machine, so keeping your machine very well maintained is worth every penny of 14 bucks, I guess. So, all right, the new O-ring goes right there on the edge of this cover. You see it right around there. Okay, we're going to take something and pry that out, like a flat screwdriver, something of that nature. Okay, folks, we have our brand new O-ring installed on the cover. This filter goes with the rubber grommet to the outside. It's like that. Okay, we do have a spring inside that we have to very carefully make sure that spring stays in place. This is a little tricky. Just like that. Okay, we have all three bolts reinstalled. Now we're going to tighten them, and of course use common sense. Go all the way around. Don't tighten one all the way down until you have time to go around. Okay, that one started to snug. Okay, now we can start snugging them down. Okay, if you snug these too tight, you will strip them. Use common sense. I'm not sure exactly what the service manual calls for in foot-pounds. There we go. Filter is in. And one thing that we do is our used oil please don't dump this stuff out on the ground. Treat some lumber with it if you need to. Some raw rough cut lumber, or if you don't have any use for it, take it to an oil recycling center. And when we have an abundance, we keep some on hand for different projects, but what we have in abundance that we have an excess of, we take it to a auto parts store that actually has a used oil recycling bin that oil gets recycled. So this will end up probably going back to a recycle center. So just pour it into a container that you can transport and take it and have it recycled. Be a good steward. Okay, we got our machine ready to run. Oil has been changed. Oil filter has been changed. And I let it run for a few minutes and then let it sit for a little bit to make sure the oil filter had time to fill up. And the seat's going back on. And we're done. The machine is ready to run. It's real important to fill your machine up with your engine, your crankcase with oil to the specified level, and then start it and let it sit and idle for 2 or 3 minutes. Give oil time to fill those oil lines into that oil filter, and for that oil filter to get really absorbed and soaked with oil, because that'll use up a little bit of your oil. And let it run for a few minutes, then shut it down and just let it sit for 5-10 minutes, then recheck it. And sometimes your oil level will be down a little bit from what it was, because by the time the oil pump pushed oil through all the components and especially saturated your oil filter, that'll use some of that oil to saturate that filter. It'll absorb some of it. So just the nature of the element will absorb some of it. So let it run, turn it off, let it sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you got time for, then recheck it. And we did that, and we had to add just maybe a quarter of a quart, a fourth of a quart, to bring it back up to full. And the crankcase is full of fresh new oil and a new oil filter, and this machine is ready for some hard work this summer. It's a good machine and we're very happy with it, so it's good for a while. Come March, April, whatever the time may be, the hay pasture, hay field will tell us when it's time, or more so, the weeds will tell us when it's time. We've done a real good job with our weed control in our pastures. We still got some work to do to get those weeds under control. I've seen some folks mow hay, and I don't know that I'd really say they was mowing hay. They were mowing weeds and baling weeds. I've seen some folks, and I'm not knocking it, some people that may have been all they had, and their animals had to eat something, so they were baling it. But I've seen, well, let me say that first, that may have been the best they could do. I'll say that up front. But for me, I've seen people baling some hay that I would have just took my rotary cutter and just mowed it down. It was nothing but a field of weeds, and they were baling that stuff. So I don't know what their plans was, but like I said, they may have had their backs against the wall and having to do something for some hay. I don't know, or some kind of forage. But it was just a field full of goldenrod and horse nettle and weeds. I mean, just flat out weeds, briars and everything else. And I'm not baling that stuff, and wouldn't even consider offering something like that for sale, especially. But we try to strive to have quality, #1 top shelf hay. So the machine's ready to come whenever the pastor tells us to hook our tow behind sprayer and get started on the fields. Thanks for being with us. Now we got to move on to our pull behind brush hog or mower. And you may wonder, well, what about the air cleaner? I cleaned the air cleaner about 3 weeks to a month ago, and it was really clean. I was surprised. It has the foam element that goes around the actual filter, and all I had to really do was take a air hose and blow that foam off and kind of wipe it off. It's already kind of still a little oily, which is good. It needed to be to trap dust particles, but it was in really good shape, so that's why we didn't indulge into the air cleaner today. But the air cleaner is clean, the oil filter is new, the oil is new, and I did check the oil in the differentials and it was really good. So the machine is ready for spring come time to spray our fields. So in any event, we're going to get started on the pull behind brush hog shortly. Thank you for being with us today, and if you haven't, we'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. It encourages us to get out and make more videos, and man, I'm telling you, the subscribers that we've been getting seem to be really top shelf folks, and we appreciate you very, very much. God bless and have a good evening.